This is the Afternoon Qso-Vlog network, and now let's check in and see if CHARLEY-K1GZL is on frequency to bring us up to date on the latest 40-meter band propagation. Charlie's QTH is up in northern New Hampshire near the Canadian border. Charlie, got a copy?
Canadian border. Charlie, got a copy?
Yes, I sure do, Jim. You're right now peaking 10:20 over 9 direct. Sunny out and in the shade. The temperature is 8 degrees. That's as warm as it's been all day. Go ahead.
Roger, Roger. Well, now you have some interesting audio to play for us today, I believe, Charlie.
Audio to play for us today, I believe, Charlie.
Yes, I've got two. One, this is K1GZL. I was working this morning, King X-Ray 4, Whiskey Charlie, Aeronautical Mobile on a Boeing 767 two-engine transport jet flying from Sacramento, California to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was over around Davenport, Iowa, just east of there, and heading toward Philadelphia with a ground speed of over 600 miles per hour with a good tailwind, and he was at 39,000 feet, and here he is. Wait a minute.
Our descent into Philadelphia, over.
Okay, here we go.
It's flight level 390, and we're showing 533 knots, and we have a 70-knot tailwind. And we're estimating Philadelphia at 1820, so we'll probably start our descent probably around 1745. We're showing right now about 800 miles from Philadelphia, over.
Okay, now that was KX4 Whiskey Charlie. Now here's the next thing I have. Now this happened on the 18th. I'm trying to think what day that is. Tuesday night, Tuesday evening on 75 meters. And the darndest thing was I was working KA1YVU. He's 7 air miles northeast of me in New Hampshire's most northern town of Pittsburgh. And we had the most weird condition. I had ground wave. There was ground wave between the two of us. However, there was a return double echo, Now, I was also working K0W, let's start over again, K0WOJ out just west of St. Louis, Missouri, and also WB2 Queen Nancy United, and he was located in South Plainfield, New Jersey. Oh, and that's only about 340 air miles to my south-southwest. Now, both of them copied Art and myself normally. However, Art, 7 air miles away, was coming back on a double echo. There was a delay that was significant because I used to, when 20 meters was really hot, quite a few years ago, I remember many times working Jim, WA3FET, down there near State College, PA. He would be aiming his beam east, and I was aimed west, and we were copying each other around the world, and there was a double echo. But that was even faster than this one between Art and myself. The only explanation I have is that the signal, for some reason or other, was going out into space, and somewhere, somehow, being refracted back. So we were going out probably 20,000 to 30,000 miles in space, and the signal was coming back. Now, the station in New Jersey and Bob out there in eastern Missouri heard no QRM, no other station on, and nothing unusual. However, we did get this return flow or signal coming directly down on it, and here it is. Here it is.
Weird. It's more than that.
Okay, Jim, could you hear that double echo? KC9VKV, K1GZL. Sorry for the long one.
Roger, Charlie, I could hear it. Now, what do you estimate the delay timing would be? How many, a quarter second, half a second? How long was the delay?
A quarter second, half a second. How long was the delay?
I would say the delay, Jim, was something in the vicinity of about a third of a second at least. A third of a second at least, which and it takes the electricity, the radio wave to go around the Earth in an eighth of a second. So that was quite a return. Go ahead.
Roger. I think normally, you know, those stationary satellites out there, I think it takes about a quarter of a second up to those satellites and then a quarter of a second down. So I don't recall exactly how far those stationary satellites are, but you know, that's a quarter of a second out to those. So you guys were getting refracted way on past that.
Oh, so you guys were getting refracted way on past that.
Oh yeah, it's obvious. So I've never seen anything like it. Art has never seen anything like it. And Jim, who has worked with antennas, WA3FET, thought it was so weird that I ought to send a copy of this into ARRL. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, quite unusual, you know, for that distance of a refraction. You know, a lot of times we'll have phase cancellations, which is repeating refractions very close to the primary refraction. That's why they're actually, you know, just a phase angle cancellation, so they're very close. But the further you get out, the more delayed the return, and you guys were way out there.
More delayed the return, and you guys were way out there.
Oh yeah, and some people say I'm still out there, Jim, but that was fascinating. And could you make that out, that there was a delay there? Could you hear the double transmission, the delay? Actually, did that sound okay at your end? Go ahead.
Roger. Probably not as pronounced as it would be in a local tape repo versus, you know, over the air. But you could, you know, hear the words being repeated sometime later. You know, the same certain words. You know, Roger.
Later, you know, the same certain words. You know, Roger.
Oh yeah, but it was mind-boggling when that happened. Art heard me calling the group. And we were on 37. Oh shoot, let me think. 3756, I think, that night on the 18th. 2020 here. Okay, Jim, I don't want to tie you up there because there may be many stations trying to get you. Well, I guess you'll be on next Friday at the usual time. But amateur radio is really fun. You never know what's next. KC9VKV, K1GZL.
That's what Roger, Charlie. You just don't know what's next. And I have a quick little story about, you know, one of my 3500Zs, the one on the left-hand side on the SB220 as you face the front, is been having problems with sometimes not coming up on the filaments. You know, it's been a dead tube. And so I've been thinking it was the socket, and I've been working on the socket. I made me a little shish kebab Q ball jobber, and so I would turn the machine off, and then I would take this little shish kebab dial and slip it through the back where the fan is, and slip it through the holes, and I would tap that tube pretty hard, and it'd come back and then turn it back on, and it would be there. And this has been going on for like 3 or 4 weeks now. It's driving me crazy. So finally it got to the point that even my best Q shot wasn't bringing that tube back up, and I said, you know, I'm gonna have to just break down and do a little surgery on this, because I was thinking it was the tube socket myself, you know. So I did get in there, and you know, this B220 on a good day is 75 pounds, and so I got it on its side, got the cover off of it, and you know, started. I thought I could just manipulate the tube a little bit harder than normal, and turn it back on, and the filament would come. Well, I tried that. No filament on that tube. So then I said, well, let me check to see if there's voltage in the on the socket. So I did that, and you know, there was voltage there. So I'm thinking, wow, man, it must be the tube. So I did pull the tube, and I ran a continuity check on the filaments on the tube, and I got nothing. So I'm thinking, oh man, this tube is dead. And I'm thinking, you know, a new 3500Z, depending on what it is between $300 and $400, you know. And so I'm still running continuity on this tube. I got it upside down, and it's being held in place by a tape dispenser, you know, with that round hole is just about the size of a 3500Z. So I had it upside down, and nothing on the continuity on the filament. So I said, well, I'm going to try one more thing. And this is something I would never do to a tube. But, you know, when you're not getting filament continuity, the tube is pretty much shot already, you know. So I took a pair of needle nose pliers, and I grabbed a hold of the one of the filament lugs of that tube, and I moved it one way. I actually just grabbed that lug and twisted it about a quarter of a turn one way, checked the continuity, nothing. I twisted it back about half a rev the other way, and nothing. And then I went to the other lug, and I twisted it a quarter turn, and all of a sudden I had continuity in the filaments. So what it was just a cold solder joint on the tube filament lug. And so, you know, I checked with my Elmer. He said, well, that's going to at least take 300 watts to do that job. And so I went up to my friendly Home Depot, and I couldn't find anything 300-watt iron or a gun. So, but they did have a 150-watt gun. And I got that and brought it home and did a little surgery, and bigger than heck, 150, 140 watts does just fine on resoldering those 3500Z tube lugs. And, well, here I am.
500Z tube lugs, and, well, here I am.
Wow, that took a lot of engineering to get that 3-500 going. So I'm glad you did. Jim. So you have to cut and try on a lot of things on this hobby, but I just hope I'm not that much of an engineer myself as far as reading schematics. I'm more of an antenna type. But it's fascinating, and my greatest thrill is antenna experimentation, and to see what happens with the common receiving antenna, and like you do, switching back and forth between SDRs. I switch back and forth between antennas to see if I've made improvements or killed the signal or something. Okay, Jim and Mike, I'll catch you down or plus or minus 50 in a minute. So I'll say very best, Jim, and thank you very, very much for picking me up. I assume you'll be on the usual next Friday. You will be on the usual schedule next Friday, but you're coming in beautifully here. Here's a couple seconds.
I thought I could just manipulate the tube a little bit harder than normal, and turn it back on, and the filament would come.
So, there you are. I hope that came through. KC9VKV, K1GZL, if you can still hear me.
Roger, Charlie. Well, three's up that way, sir. Appreciate it, as always, and very interesting on the from Space Echo. That was way out there, you know. I'll have to calculate just how far that was, because what I was hearing seemed to be about a half a second or so, so that's a pretty fair distance. Well, three's up that way, Charlie. Thanks a lot, and we will be on the air next Friday in our regular situation between 3:30 and 5. So 3 Charlie. This is just a reminder, this is the Thursday afternoon Qso-Vlog right now. My name is Jim, KC9VKV, and I'm better known in some circles as Dr. VKV. And we are recording now live till 5, so if you have a radio you want to check out, give us a shout. We'll post this recording up on YouTube in the next couple of days. So when you go to YouTube, just do a call letter search for KC9VKV. That's Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, and that will take you to our Qso-Vlog page. And on that page, you'll be looking for one Qso-Vlog entitled My Group Air Check 2-20-20. My Group Air Check 2-20-20. This is KC9VKV listening.